Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Rhinoceros Funk, like no other, or Rocky Balboa, chasing chickens, fighting brothers. And I'm here live on Visual Caffeine TV. Another one for you and me to enjoy a conversation about a cultural exploration. Enjoy.
Check it. Let's get the people a crash course, and let them know who you are and your position in the culture and so on and so forth. And then really and truly what I'm asking is your start in the culture, your start in this hip hop thing. Yeah. Tell the people what's happening.
Well, again, my name is Rhinoceros Funk, host of Gorilla Grooves Radio, host, guide, underground hip hop shock jock, and once again, Tits McGee is on vacation. But I mean, this goes back to loving radio, bro. Loving radio and being a fan of the little outlet that I had growing up, which was my radio.
Wow.
And tuning into, whether it be Red Alert, whatever it may be, and then the Stretch and Bob era. Okay. And then, lucky enough, I was able to go to college in the mid '90s and start my own radio show up in Albany. And then from there, just being known in Albany as an underground DJ, beyond whatever times they gave me. And then from there, man, doing little shows up there and MC battles. Yeah. And then by the time I came back down in 2005, being very lucky to be given a platform by Lyricist Lounge and being able to maneuver with a lot of MCs and then starting my own kind of monthly showcase, The Art of Lyrics with Fred Ones. And then we took that all the way to about 2015 when we said, you know what, man, let's try this radio thing once again, man. I mean, let's try to bring it back to radio where there's a platform where we don't have to go to a bar and on a monthly basis and see that no one is coming out. At least we could do our radio show, be happy, and you can listen to it when you want to listen to it online and shit. But since 2015, we've been doing the radio show, Gorilla Grooves Radio, out of TME Studios. All right. Man, I mean, interviews every week, music every week. It's just been a real honor.
That's really interesting. The start is in radio. Let's talk a little bit about radio and the influence of some of the people that you mentioned as far as Red Alert, other popular hip hop DJs and what have you. What was it about that time as far as listening? Was it the music? Was it the energy? Was it the once upon a time there was a such thing as as breaking a record? You know what I'm saying? And introducing the world to these new tunes. That was pretty much new to us as far as, fans of hip hop or hip hop artists. So, what was that thing about radio that really grabbed you all around beyond the music?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go that route, it was really, I would prefer to listen to Casey Kasem. My thing was always the voice. That's why Mr. Magic was huge for me. Like, I always loved the voice and what people brought to the radio world, that ability to close your eyes and be in the room with the person or not have that person take you to another world. When it comes to hip hop DJs on the radio, I really wasn't a fan of many. Man, there was just too much enthusiasm as we hear today. It's way too much. Stop trying to sell me a 2-year college with a degree sucks in hip hop tones. Not a big fan. I loved the voice of how to introduce a record, the interviewing aspects of it, which is like, I prefer the Marty Marr on like 89.1. Like I enjoyed the inquisitive aspect of the host, the ability to segue and move along, those kinds of things I really enjoy. But as for hip hop, I can press pause and record. Those are the things. The mixtape aspect. Where I can go back go back to, I remember one time this kid was like, yo, why do you do end offs at the end of your songs when I know it's already coming from like Hot 97? I'm like, I don't care. That's the way I like it. You know, like it was a weird aspect. But you can design your own tapes. You can design your own stuff and always be able to edit out anybody's enthusiasm from ruining the next song.
Right. That's funny. Enthusiasm.
Yeah, man. That's how I gotta say, man. Because I mean, you bring up a dude like Funk Master Flex. I mean, you can only say enthusiasm, baby, because at this point, it's like, holy shit, what are you doing up there? But right. I'll go with the enthusiasm. Yeah.
And listen, I would have to say that's a euphemism beyond any other things that you can say. It is enthusiastic. It's a lot of testosterone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, what GNC does he go to, right? You know what I mean? Frank Thomas pills is he sucking down? Right. Shit, man, I ain't got that shit. I got that. He's older than I am. Yo. That motherfucker ready to fight anybody in the street.
Sometimes you got to think about how much performance is into it and how much entertainment, is into it to really get the people lamped, because right now, and I don't know if you know about the whole Pete Rock and Funk Flex back and forth, or it's probably like about 2 weeks old now, but it was just like, really, you guys? Y'all, is that what's happening, Flex? You still getting the people like that.
I think we live in a world of conflict, and conflict sells commodities, right? You're a commodity as long as you're a conflict. And I mean, I've been observing children, not in a weird way, not in a white van way, but I've been observing children this past summer, and it's really the conflict. It's really what you can say that you think you can do. There isn't any more of this posing of skill anymore. And if your name pops up, then holy Christ, and now you're something. And it's a really sad way in order to make yourself relevant again, or become relevant. Or I mean, the fact that the source is like, oh, this guy said this. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Am I listening to a bunch of tattletales, or is this actually hip hop news?
Hip-hop, right.
Am I supposed to care that the baby got arrested 17 times? Who gives a shit? It's conflict, and conflict sells, which we should really understand that conflict is not art. And if you're making art out of conflict, then you're in the wrong business.
That's point well taken. And look, and I'm gonna add on to what you say, just to clarify for the viewers and whatnot. Studying children is studying nature, and it's studying us in our most primal stage, so you can learn a lot if you watch children, especially how they negotiate the world.
You see how the culture trickles down and affects them. You know what I mean? And unlike Reaganomics, but you see how they pick up all like the malt liquor aspect of the culture, and it's hilarious because a little girl yesterday was like, "Hey, what's your favorite song?" I'm like, at this moment, my favorite song is "Return of Crooklyn Dodgers," 1995, produced by DJ Premier. And I started, and I tried to say something. She looks at me like, this fat old guy is crazy. And then she just throws, well, my song is. I'm like, well, I never asked you for your song. This is not about you. You asked me about me.
That's a real question.
But it's really this when you hear them talk about why they like it, they can't even express it to its menial terms. Like they just blab out or something, what else they heard, or that person's personal life, or how much money they have, and it's like, oh man, this is where we're going right now with this. I mean, we've been there for a while, but I don't think it's very healthy for anyone who's playing that game.
So let me ask you, because that's an interesting point that you bring up, of course, because we have watched this music, excuse me, and this culture evolve. What place for you as an artist do you find a responsibility to keep it 100, so to speak, as far as what the elements and what the roots are in this music we know as hip hop?
I mean, to me, is why I do it is the words I use. I mean, I got a song that's coming out. I don't know when the hell's coming out, but I say things like, I go diligent and keep at it. I'm solving social ills with rap ballads. My words, if you get to hear my words, then you were one of the lucky ones, right? Because as a sociologist, I observe, and then I can, through theory, filter out what I see. it's not for me to say, well, this has no, man, because I understand we live in a world where, again, this is why people sign children to rap records, because it's easy to exploit. They're all exploitable game until they're no longer willing to use them. I mean, let's start off very early. One of the pioneers, the man had to fight for his name back. You know what I mean? Grandmaster Flash had to take Sylvia to court for his name. This is an ultimate thing of exploitation. And as long as you recognize it, you know, you're trying to contribute without being exploited, then you will understand your path like everything else, right? There's people out there still trying to be karate champions at 80 years old. they do it more for the fun aspects of being a karate champion in their heads. They never know. They can't compete at the Valley Under 18 Karate Championship tournament. Miyagi-Do got it on Smash. Yeah, I go everywhere. Sorry, man.
Nah, I'm tickled.
But it's a metaphor. I mean, it's a metaphor for a lot of things. I mean, you see dudes out there in their 40s playing this disgusting shit that they call whatever, and they be out there and flopping their hands like and doing the little 5-year-old. I'm like, man, what are you?
TikTok dances, right?
Yeah, man. I'm like, what are you 7, bro? You 48 with 6 kids. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah,
it doesn't look good.
You know what's funny about that? You know, and this is just kind of off the cuff as I'm thinking about it as you speak.
It's all off the cuff, baby. Let's go.
All right, we freestyling in. Hip hop has shaped our identity, you know, to some degree. And now that it's evolving and it's morphing into something else, when we become gentlemen of a certain age, sometimes we don't know how to behave. You know what I'm saying? And so then we move with the trends as opposed to being authentic and just being rooted in what we know, right? And I find that really interesting to your point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sad thing is that we only know what we know was being handed down to us, right? We only know what we know when it's handed down to us. I mean, we live in a consumer society. If you're bred to be a consumer, it's very hard. I mean, we have history, so we can examine, let's say, the 19th century, when the sexiest thing in the 19th century was to be a poet, a philosopher, a writer. Now we look at the 21st century, where the coolest thing is to pop your phone up, hope you have internet so you can dance like an idiot with a bunch of your friends. We examining the culture. I mean, we have to say that a lot of us don't have individual independent thought. That's not a thing. It's not independent. Independent thought is not independent. You go to school, right, with hundreds or maybe thousands of people. You're all learning the same thing, and then you're bunched up into a society where you all have to do the same thing. Independent thought is really rare. But my thing is that hip hop for me allowed that, right? It allowed that because I was lucky enough, right? Just like someone who was, again, in the 19th century and turned out to be a philosopher, we were very lucky to grow up in the Afrocentricity era, the era of pro-blackness that crept in to the main stage of radio prior to it being shut down, and then morphed into a no, this is an entertainment aspect. It was like WWF changing its name, right? Now it's entertainment. No, it has to be clubs. Oh, it has to be ignorance. Yeah, and we have evidence of this to this day. I mean, I've seen little clips of people that I don't know who their names are because there's too many littles and does in there. I don't know who their names are. But those people, but I saw it was like, that he had to take the word cracker out of his rhyme, yet he could leave 85 niggas in there. It's like, what? So the words, when these guys, the words are being edited, things are being omitted. I mean, then we have to look at the objective, right? What's the final objective? And is the final objective to create culture, or is the final objective to create consumerism?
Or have a sense of consumerism where people are zombified. And that's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was on YouTube today, I was doing a little research. Check, you got some joints, brother. You got some joints. I'm seeing you. But I went down the rabbit hole, messed around. You know how you looking at one thing, you end up looking at something else, right? Yeah. And so what you were saying about the editing of lyrics, right? and you know what's palpable maybe for the consumer. I didn't realize, and I'm just kind of bringing this up again. We freestyling, we off the cuff.
Oh,
The Ether had several renditions before the one that we actually heard.
uh,
You know, the Nas joint, and
uh,
they were you know speaking about censorship in a sense. You know, the lyrics was rough, whereas the label was like, yeah, nah, we can't put that out. And so he had to go back to the drawing board, you know, several times. But listen, I want to pivot real quick and kind of like swing back around to something that you had mentioned as far as Grandmaster Flash, you know, buying his name back. I want to talk about your name,
yeah.
which I found very interesting. And I will have to say, and you may confirm this, you may, you know, you may have never thought about it, but
Yeah.
your name reminds me of is that Public Enemy lyric. You know what I'm talking about?
Now go ahead.
Man, from the river was on coming like a running something like a rhino. Yo, I'm see now you have me digging in my
That's
mind.
not the way you put it up.
Yeah,
You put it up.
I wasn't even ready for it. But
Yeah.
from the rebel is final, something soul, rock and roll, coming like a rhino. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
You know what I mean? So,
I
but when I
know.
listening to your work, you know, checking your work on YouTube today, I'm like, yo, I hear the pro-black influence, right? I
Oh,
hear the intellectualism. Like there's a lot of intellectualism. There's a lot of wordplay, a lot of clever way
yeah.
that you use devices. But can you talk a little bit more about the origin of your name and its purpose, what it really means, what it represents?
I mean, for me, it's we can go to the physical attributes, but we can start with that aspect in the sense of charging hard like a rhino, right? Always being present on the microphone, never fearing, uh,
Mm,
except for poachers, but you can't see them anyway because rhinos have horrible vision. But never backing down, and always charging at whatever issue it may be, whatever issue that I hold dear to my heart. Um, which is why I kept the name in the sense of rhyme form, in the sense of moving into the aspect of rhyming. But I mean, I've been called Rhino for a very long time because I was a kid. I was huge, and I used to, by the age of 12, I weighed over 200 pounds, and I was playing street football with dudes in their 20s and 30s.
right.
So a lot of physical attributes behind the name, the way I would tackle and shit. So I kept that in college, and then when I started rhyming in '99. By '99, the song came out. One uh, Hand Experience, right? With it was what am I now? It's Cool Keith, but it's the record is High and Mighty featuring Cool Keith, right? And Bobito's on it, and he says Rhinoceros Funk, which I was like, holy shit, that could be something, right?
Mm,
I've always been. I mean, it's the funk is something that we always talked about in the late '80s, '90s. I mean, Redman is one of my fucking favorites.
right.
There's so. I mean, the beat nuts, that funky shit. I mean, the funk was
Yeah.
what gave us that sound that's never been explored again. And I can make the argument for legal purposes, but that sound of that era that was never explored again.
Right.
But when I heard him say Rhinoceros Funk, I was like, oh, that's mine.
Huh.
And I mean, I've been very lucky to have interviewed and hung out with Kool Keith various times, and I told him the story, and I mean, he never slapped me, so I guess we're good. You know what I mean? But that's where that comes from. But I mean, the ability to charge on a particular issue. I mean, I've never hidden from that. Even if I may be wrong, I'll learn from it and I keep going forward. But that was I mean, it was an era that I would hear things. I'm like, I don't know what that is, right?
Mm,
And I would try to learn it. I mean, I'm gonna do that to this day. I don't know if you can see. I'll flash it over. You know what I mean? But I got a huge. I don't know. You see it over there? Can you see the Mumia poster? So
yeah.
I got a huge Mumia poster. That
Right.
I mean that's not a poster. It's actually a painting by my man Benz. Salute to Benz. And it's amazing to me how I got people that come to my crib and still don't know who the hell Mumia is. I mean, and we're over here. I saw Twitter today was I guess some basketball player chick is arrested for bringing weed to Russia, and we still
Right.
don't even talk, and we don't talk about Mumia. I said, come on. Like, what are we here to do? And for me, again, hip hop did that. Hip hop was able to inform me. Right. Hip hop was able to inform me. I mean, the first time I heard somebody call Jesse Jackson a sellout was hip hop. Right.
Right.
Mumia. I mean, the first time you hear about slavery, dude. Like, I went to school here in America, and we wasn't talking about slavery, but yet
Joanne Samard and you know, a lot of people just like yourself. Yeah, who is this? And let me go look this up.
Exactly. You know? The idea of alternate religions, right? I mean, the idea of 5%ers, the idea of the Nation of Islam. Like, that's something that, I mean, you don't hear within your 4-block radius growing up in the hood. You don't hear that shit.
Right. It's absolutely true.
So back to the radio gives you an outlet, and hip hop was giving you an outlet, because I mean, songs are songs. And most songs are, I mean, I can argue that 98% of songs out there are all about love. And when you're like 10, 9 years old, you know what the fuck love is? I wasn't sucking on titties yet. I wasn't sucking on titties. I'm sorry, I was 9. But you know what I'm saying? But when you listen to something that's like, yo, man, like, yo, we're in this together. This is a fucking horrible condition, and you have to shit in your Walkman. You walk outside, you're like, holy shit, we are in the same conditions, right? Where do these conditions stem from? Right. And then you got somebody who's like, yo, man, look at history. And you're like, oh shit, let me look at history.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's to your point to say that what we're hearing now, what we understand is as far as this music, this hip hop now, is a far cry from what we learned as far as being on the ground floor, you know, listening to KRS-One, listening to Public Enemy, you know, I mean, you got it from everywhere. Ultramagnetic, Big Daddy Kane, you know, it came from everywhere, and it's definitely a far cry from
Shout out to Chubb Rock, because he's obviously one of the first one that on the Return of Crooked Dodgers, which I was referring to earlier. You know what I mean? And the line he got, the lines he got in there, like one of my favorite lines is "blue collar turns to bourgeois." You know what I mean? Like, it's a crazy line that people, I don't think, understand of the white flight, right? In Brooklyn, right? Where they took all these Italians and Jews that were middle class and then moved them out to Long Island with all these credits and all these ability to create a generational wealth. And then post-World War II, here is the projects for Puerto Ricans and blacks. You go nowhere. I mean, that all in blue collar turns to bourgeois.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a crazy line.
You know, Chubb Rock. Yeah, Chubb Rock definitely he killed, because he starts that track out, if I'm right. I think he's the lead MC. He's the beginning MC for that particular.
Hey, the first one. He said, whiteys can sell on the corners of Bushwick. Whiteys can sell on the corners of Bed-Stuy. Pass the torch to that nigga, die, or just die. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. You know what, dude? That shit is, I could put that 16 on anybody's shit, dude. That shit is wild. It's wild. Right. It's so informative, and it's so, it just.
Move, motherfucker, make room.
What you want, what they say, what you calling on. Posse, crews, cliques, and clans, expand to the fans all across the land. In the jam, make it bump in the clutch, what you want. Coyote and a rhino, bringing you the funk. Posse, crews, cliques, and clans, expand to the fans all across the land. In the jam, make it bump in the clutch, what you want. Coyote and a rhino, bringing you the funk.
Do the math. And show your work at church. I flex with intellect and enjoying all the perks. Pack that hazmat, abstract flow. Jam tracks, back facts, cracking cold. This with my people bombing walls in the system. Use wisdom, shake off the ghetto symptoms. Gangs, bricks, cruising, hoodlums. Put some effort in this so you don't look dumb. Cook some funk with picante, adelante. With the rap comandante, maneuver with humor. A soul ruler, producer, a pleasurable sounds, a brave bruiser. Chooser, of accurate passes, stay sane. Redefine the game with the mention of my name. Rhinoceros, herbivore, pushing the score to places and spaces you can't explore.
Posse, crews, cliques, and clans, expand to the fans all across the land. In the jam, make it bump in the clutch, what you want. Coyote and a rhino, bringing you the funk. Posse, crews, cliques, and clans, expand to the fans all across the land. In the jam, make it bump in the clutch, what you want. Coyote and a rhino, bringing you the funk.
It's a gamble, scramble, handle like a full blitz. Use with distract the path of the pulpit. Rebel rouser over the web or the counter. Louder than any soldier, you will encounter. Mi gente, pressure, no armed opposition. The goal of the mission to come to fruition. My people, what's your worth? Excerpts to curse this capitalist earth. An outlaw who scouts for routes to development. Full element, righteous, it's here settlements. Homes, they rare but go and share. Notes and paragraphs for you all to compare. Oh boy, he poison bring and kill the noise. Turn anything into a half-field them McCoys. Pack the junk up in the trunk. Coyote and a rhino bringing you the funk.
Posse, crews, cliques and clans. Expand to the fans all across the land. In the jam, make it bump in the clutch. What you want? Coyote and a rhino, bringing you the funk. Posse, crews, cliques and clans. Expand to the fans all across the land. In the jam, make it bump in the clutch. What you want? Coyote and a rhino, bringing you the funk. Funk.
Calling all left, right to the Dolex. Puts to the chest, uppercuts to the grill. I'm like, kill. He's like, chill. Hey. My people, my people, my people, my people, my people, my people, my people.
Listen, let's talk a little bit about, because you showed us the Mumia poster there, or the painting rather. Let's talk about the relationship that you have with art, or visual arts, or graphs, so to speak, specifically.
I mean, growing up in early '80s, man. I mean, you couldn't hit the train. we was always on the train. Me and my family, visiting family in Brooklyn, so it was always looking at who wrote what was being thrown up, all these uses of colorful, colorful platforms, and then try to be able to mimic it. I never took it to. I never achieved the level of being a well-known visual artist. I mean, I could defend myself if I want to draw something. Like to this day, if I want a logo, which is my logo right here, or you can shot.
Okay.
I drew it out, and lucky enough, I have people that I can say, "Yo, what do you think about this? And how can you help me expand it? Right? Okay. How can you help me get it better?" Which is another thing we have to understand. It's like, yo, man, we have to be able to utilize our friends or utilize the people that we respect to say, yo, how can I make this better, versus sitting there and then again arguing about how great you are and then you're the best. And it's too much. It's too much. It's like watching a prom queen cry. No one wants to do it. Yeah, man. All that's from white radio. White radio, man. You get that from white radio, man. Just make those little jokes. Prom queens. Who the hell knows about prom queen? So the point of the story is, you're able to. I'm able to do that. I mean, with again, if it's not that great, then I can still say, hey, my boy Benz or my boy Fred, who did this for me. But my appreciation for art, I think it's been there since I was a child. I've always drawn out, even with the most remedial pencils, or via pen, whatever it may be. It took me to a place where I can, think of music.
Right. And escape and imagine, right?
Escape and imagine, right? And then when words started to be something along those lines, where I saw that I can paint pictures with words, the drawings went away, and now it was just writing. And I mean, that's something that it's similar to anything in your life, and that's putting in work, right? Yeah. If I wanted to be a better artist, then maybe I should have taken some classes, but I did not. But with the words, lucky enough, I was taking classes because I was in college. So I was able to read stuff and say, oh shit, I'm putting these things together. And with reading and constantly reading and continuously reading, I was able to manifest particular words and themes and move them with the music. And then the music, again, DJing. right? DJing. Dude, like, I just tossed out my laptop that cracked on me, and now I'm DJing vinyl again. I'm like, fuck you, laptop, I got this. Right? Hell with that. And
Take it back.
yeah, man, take it back. And DJing vinyl right now. I'm like, I'm happy. It makes me feel like back at the radio station doing a 2 a.m. show with no one listening, and I'm hosting. Right? But
You don't have hard feelings about that now.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Somebody was listening. Somebody was listening.
Yeah, maybe you know the antenna was very weak up in Albany, but listen, you know, crazy. I mean, I've met one of my best friends that I met him through that. Like, he called up one day and he's like, "Yo, what is that record you're playing?" And it was actually a Doom record. It was yeah, it was Doom record, and I was like, "Oh, it was MF Doom." He said, "Well," and he like trying to ask me where I got it. I'm like, "Dude, I'm also DJing at the same time, man. You want to know more? You come up here, you hand me the records." And I hung up on him,
Right.
and he showed up.
He did. Of course he did.
So I mean, you make those relationships, and those are the ones you try to keep.
Yo, so you said something really interesting, and I'm always intrigued with, MCs to me, like you were talking about in 19th century, it's sexy to be a poet, sexy to be a philosopher, sexy to be a writer, right? MCs to me, and it's because I'm a writer myself, but I'm always interested in the process. And what you were saying, you were talking about reading, right?
Yeah.
Being well, not in the context of method and writing, but you do a lot of reading. What else is it in your process as far as writing is concerned that you do, to put your verses together?
Listen. You have to listen, right? You have to listen. Listen to people, right? And it started out, this conversation started out with me observing, right? And then you listen. You have to listen to people, man. You know what I also love to do, man? I love to listen to 1950s suspense radio shows. And you catch a particular a colloquial term for something. You're like, what the fuck did that mean? Like, and you're like, let me take that, right? Let me take that, or let me play with that, or he meant this by that. Maybe I can say it in a better way.
Okay.
I mean, and not, I guess, the confidence. The confidence to say, well, I'm gonna sit here for 20 minutes if I have to, and create a 2-bar something that I want to say that is not like everyone has said it, right? Like people said, step back. Or like, shout out to my man MC Whiteout, right? Like, you've heard the lines like, "Oh, I'm over your head, right? I'm above you," all that shit. You've heard that, right? We've all heard that. I'm above you, I'm above your head, which means that I'm smarter than you, right? We all know that, right? People out there, yay, right? So I got this line that says, "So over your head, I give God a pound on the way down." Which I can take it anywhere, right?
Hey,
One, it's such a wild line, because I'm implying that one, there is a heaven, which then clearly takes away the rest of the line, because on the other line is on the way down, which means that I believe in gravity and physics. Ooh, you know what I'm saying? So you're gonna take both of these things and you're able to debunk them and say, "Yo, man, that's how above your head I am right now," right?
But then also too, yeah, of the gravity, of the physics of it, it's also too, if you make the inference, it's like, yeah, I'm over your head, but still I'm on the ground. I'm right here as well.
Grounded, yes. A lot of joints you can make out of that, but with that one goddamn line, I think I can let you guys know how much effort is put into the verses, and there's never gonna be something where I'm gonna slack on.
Right. Do you find yourself writing incrementally? Do you find yourself kind of like inspired and have to jot down on the spot, or can you just put it all out in one shot?
Oh no, it's always again what I observe. So if it's at the moment, jot it down, right? But there are times where I sit here in front of the TV, or I'm typing away at something, and I can just lay back and start building on that. One of my favorite things is watching movies, right? So there's a song I have now, it's called Rhino Balboa, that I do with my boy Drill Funk from Arizona. Drill Kid from Arizona. The album was called Drill Funk, small EP, 5 tracks.
Mm.
And Rocky Balboa on that. It all stemmed from the fact that my wife was watching a fucking Rocky marathon. So I sat with her for like 10 minutes and I was like, well, I'm going to make a song about motivation. Right? That's what he's seeking throughout the movie, right? It's motivation.
Right.
He's seeking motivation in order to defeat this opportunity, to defeat a person in this opportunity he might never ever see again, right? So that's what I took in my mind. So motivation. I wrote down motivation. I wrote down opportune moments, what gets people hyped, and you write those things like on a vision board. You guys know vision boards from the 90s? Vision board, right? Or a piece of paper, right? And you write it down, and then each word then draws lines. I think the way you approach your writing is a skill in itself. It's an art in itself. And you can ask any writer that. Any fucking writer. Novels, fucking theorists, whatever you want to ask them, if they'll share with you, because everyone still has a very convoluted way in which sometimes it's very hard for them to explain their writing. But everyone has a writing style. And that's all. I think the thing about hip hop and what hip hop or whatever these people call hip hop is that it doesn't allow for growth, because you can't exceed past that vision board when you're constantly talking about material items. If you're constantly talking about material items and guns or drugs, you really are staying in the shallow end of the pool.
Because you can't swim.
Can't swim.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like I can write a song about shoelaces. Will it go platinum? Hell no, but it's still there. Right? It'll be there. But I possibly can. But the whole point is that it doesn't allow for that, right? It doesn't. It makes it feel. I tell people all the time, and that one of my greatest compliments was dude that came to my house, and he said, "Oh man, how you rap?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, man. I'm not boasting about it." He's like, "Can I hear something?" I'm like, "Nah, yo." He's like, "Come on, let me hear it." And I put it on, and not even 4 bars later, he's like, too many words. To me, that's the greatest compliment I ever got. I was like, yeah, man, there are too many words. And it really did confirm my whole thing about this, that you were not going to be ready for it. So step off.
Right, keep moving. Right. Listen, you speaking about hip hop, of course, but what we find with this thing is a lot of competition. So in between the scales of competition and contributor of the culture, where do you find yourself? Are you a competitor or are you a contributor?
Listen, man, this is going to sound how I want it to sound. So please let's be very clear.
Just tell the viewers.
Very, very clear. I am so good that there is no competition. I don't fear competition because I'm that fucking good. Listen to my radio show. Listen to my fucking music. Listen to my friends. We're all that damn good. And when you fear competition, it's because you're in the middle of the bag and you want to get somewhere. Well, maybe I don't have the monetary funds you do, buddy. And I'm not talking whoever's listening.
Just in general.
I'm being a bit pretentious, which I am. May not have the money, but one thing I do have is the talent and the fucking squad. Yeah. Right.
And for the viewers,
it's enough.
I'm going to attest to that because you're sophisticated savages where there's White Owl, right? Yazdeen, Divine.
Yazzie, my boy Yazzie, yup.
Yeah, yo. Yeah. Look, listen.
Monsters. Go out there, listen to it. People, if you not heard it, go out there, listen to it. We just dropped number 2 this past May. So go check that out, man. Go check that out. I mean, we in our own right, awesome MCs, but when we come together, it just
it's like Voltron.
It's like gritty, right? Yeah.
It's like Voltron, and I'm attesting to that. So yeah, definitely for the viewers, y'all go check that Sophisticated Savages and other things as well. By Rhinoceros Funk. Let's talk about beats. And you know what I'm saying? That's another aspect to it. The beat selection. And what's that process like for you? Do you have a go-to producer, or are you producing yourself? And what are the sounds that really get you inspired to write?
it's fantastic because so from DJing for many years and saying, you know what, I want to be able to rhyme. I have the words. I said, you know what, screw this. I'm jumping into my own thing. I have the knowledge of how music works. So I started producing myself. A lot of my early stuff is me. Then I was again very lucky to have crossed paths with Fred Once, who then by then was already a very a veteran producer, and his relationships, his networks allow me to then meet other people, and then starting in like 2014, actually 2012. I'm sorry. I met Silent Someone, who to me is a person who captures what I should always sound like. And we actually have an album coming out this month, August 23rd. It's called Silent Funk, and it's just a cornucopia of funky shit. It's just so many sound bites. You're gonna wonder, what the hell are we doing at night? Like, what are we doing? Are we borrowing old VHSs and reels from the library? What are we doing? But when you to me, again, being as a DJ aspect, always listening, it's something that I hear it within the first 2 seconds. If I can work with it, or if I don't want to even touch it. And
is there a particular genre? Like,
well, I mean, I'm gonna get into that. So like I have an album with we dropped in December, me and Yazzie, called Agents of Reform, possibly one of the most subversive records you'll ever hear in your life. We should have been arrested like black nationalists in the 50s and 60s for this one, which we do make a mention to. But in this particular time, I mean, we were kind of in the middle of COVID when we were making it, and I was really into digging into whether it was like Nigerian funk or like Turkish disco. And I was getting, I follow a lot of DJs from around the world, so I would get these mixtapes, I would download them, and I'm like, yo, man, I could use that. And I mean, in the world where now I can't just run to a record store and pick something up, I mean, I'm able to sample that way. So that album was, I could say there was nothing American about it. Everything from Brazilian folk music to, I mean, Middle Eastern religious music. Like I was gonna say Middle Eastern gospel. That made no sense, right? But that was what gonna go to. But that
got a ring to it, though. It's got a ring.
You got a ring to it, right? Might be able to do that. But just utilizing all of these sounds, and then I mean, it's boom bap, dude. It's boom bap.
Yeah.
Make it hit those drums, make it hit those snare, and you're gonna get a funky sound. And then what you figure out is that, yo, my man, the hegemony of music, right? The influence of American music is so profound that I was able to sample a cover in the Hungarian disco CD that I just mentioned, where it was a cover of Staying Alive, right? Oh wow! Yeah, man, you're like, holy shit, this is Staying Alive, right? But this is like from the 70s, so it was of the time. So the influence of American music taps so many cultures and so many continents around this planet that even when you're digging for something so obscure, you're still gonna hit a bit of what the market is pushing globally.
Yeah. You know, that's really interesting, because the thing I would say, is it really American music? You know what I'm saying? Considering what the Black and brown people in this country have done to really boost up the American culture, and whether that's done involuntarily or voluntarily, you know what I'm saying? It's still something that's very indigenous to us, you know, and you know, I just find that very, very, very fascinating. Like, wherever you go, we're always there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The history of the let's go back to the history of the African diaspora, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Mhm.
Yeah, centuries. I mean, you can't escape that, right? You can't escape the fact that you know, when you go to the islands, you hear the drums, right? Even in South America, you hear the drums,
The drums, yeah.
the 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 guitars of Spain. I mean, you're gonna hear these um with this what's his name, Ortiz, this 19th century sociologist, called a sense of like of transculturation, right? Where
Okay.
these things, whether although they're meshed together, each of them are going to shine within their own right, within their own cultural kind of history.
Right. Listen, I think I'm gonna make this a signature question because I've asked this before to another guest, and the response was quite interesting. So I want to ask it to you. Check this out. It's kind of a little game. It's a little bit fun, but it's going to jar your memory. It goes, I was at blank when I first heard blank.
Yeah, yeah,
You fill in the blanks.
yeah. I was on Third Ave, and like maybe 170 something. I can't pinpoint, but I know it was Third Ave because my dad had a grocery store when I first heard Criminal Mind. And I was able to I had a little Walkman, and I was able to cop a bootleg copy of that with my little metal headphones.
Yeah. Metal with the little spongy.
Little sponge shit. I think I have a set of those. Hold on, B. I got a set of those.
Taking this back.
Hold up.
Yo, listen, to all those of you, watch this. Watch this. You're gonna be tickled. This, talk about technology and its evolution. Watch this.
Oh shit! Look at these kids. Look at these sons. Look at these shits. Look how they fit, B. They don't even fit on my face. That's ridiculous. Look at this. What do you do with these shits?
Give me a profile. Let me see
what do you
it.
do with these shits in your life nowadays? Look at this. My man, you gotta give these shits to an infant.
Right. Yo, but remember, they used to give those to you on the airplane too, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, but yeah, man. That's one thing. Music was
Criminal Minds. 177 Third Ave, huh?
Yeah, man. Third Ave in the Bronx, and before that, my dad had a grocery store in Spanish Harlem. So I mean, being part of like hanging out in those grocery stores gave me a little bit of what people were doing in that area. You know what I'm saying? And what people were playing in that area.
Right.
So that was something that I can kind of claw back at, and pull from. But yeah, man, Criminal Minded, man. And by the time it was like, I think it was like by 87, I had a BDP hat.
The leather one? I had the leather one, or you just had the?
Nah, I had the it was like a G Pro one or something like that.
Right.
Maybe it was 88 or something like that. But yeah, man, yeah, those are the times I recall heavily, man.
Sure. Speaking of KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions, and then speaking of who you mentioned before, Chubb Rock, can you talk about some of your influence as far as MCs are concerned?
I mean, there's a lot. Chubb Rock and KRS-One, obviously, for their clarity and their knowledge. I've been very lucky to have been compared with Just Ice one time. We were at a show together, and he looked at me and goes, "You sound like Chubb Rock, man." I'm like, "Nah, I'll take that. I'll take that." Yeah, you can't shit on that, right? But the influences, I mean, they're many, which is why I also have a line that says, "Save your top 5 for another convo. I'm too busy in this jungle like Jane Goodall in the Congo. Way too busy for that shit. I don't do top 5s, but I do influences, and they are Chubb Rock, KRS, Redman, Black Thought. I still got my Doom. My
I see your tat.
You see that? Yeah. But behind me, I got an MF Doom little memorial cage, and I love Doom. Speaking of Cage, Cage was a big influence to me, because again, the ability to paint particular emotions, right? LP, Tame one of the artifacts, the artifacts in general. I still blast That's Them like it came out yesterday.
Right.
Who else? There's a lot of heads, man. A lot of heads.
It's true.
I mean, of course, Chuck D, Big Daddy Kane, Bismarck, the Beatnuts, just because of how, to me, even though they weren't lyrical powerhouses, but they were dudes that could bang those rhymes on that snare and just
Beats was always
so
hard,
perfect with it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, a lot of dudes, man, a lot of dudes that I can't just stand there and be like, I'm gonna fizzle these guys down to a 5. Nah, man, they have their influences within me in their own right. My man Big Just from Company Flow,
Okay.
who not only with Company Flow but also in his own albums, his music, and I mentioned being subversive earlier, but his like observations of society and breakdown of global economy, things of that nature, man. Which I'm like, yo, dude, that's fantastic. That hip hop can do that. You know, you can't do that in folk music. You can't take that many words and start jamming them in to a drum and a snare in folk music. I mean, you can't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
goddamn hard.
Listen, there's definitely uniqueness as far as hip hop is concerned, and what it's contributed to the world for sure. And speaking of contribution, I want to ask you a question about legacy. When it's all said and done, you know what I'm saying, and they speak on you, what should they say? What would you want them to say?
Get the thesaurus. Ham, get the thesaurus. God. Yeah, man. That's it. I mean, it's we're at that stage. I mean, 40s. I mean, it's not like I'm looking for a contract. It's not like I'm looking for some studded earrings. Nah, man, that shit ain't happening. But it's gonna be words. And again, fortunate that we are in a world of technology, where if this continues, then my words will live longer than I do, right? Yeah. And that's really what I care about. Similar to an 18th or 19th century philosopher, that they were very fortunate that people out there in the world didn't understand this, that people could read at a larger level, because prior to that, many people could not read. I mean, the language of the main culture, right? Mm-hmm. And that there was a fucking printing press in order to make these books, right? And being distributed.
Gutenberg, right? Gutenberg.
Right? I mean, it wasn't. People beforehand had to like do that shit by hand, leather bound books or right on pig guts. You know what I mean? Like, it's again, we're very lucky that's happening. So that's something that I don't worry about. I don't mince my words. They're out there. If you can understand them, you can. If you can't, then I mean. Oh, back to my man Big Just. If this wasn't made for you, I mean, if you can't understand this, then obviously it wasn't made for you. So fuck you. And that's Big Just. That's one of the things that you hear on the record. And that's a Loon TNS joint that came out on Funk Pressure Plus. That just turned 25 years old. That I remember hearing that with my friend in the car, and he goes, "Yo, hold on, what he said?" And I'm like, "So you can go fuck yourself because you weren't listening." So play it again, play it again. And he got upset that, and Miguel, you don't understand. He's breaking down all these graph writers. He's like, "Oh, I didn't get it." I'm like, "That's why it wasn't made for you. So fuck you."
Listen, that's reminiscent of on that Agents of Reform you got when y'all say that hook y'all got. 1, 2, fuck you.
Yeah,
right?
thank you, man. Yeah.
I'm listening, brother. I'm listening.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, this we came live to do this, man. And if you don't agree, well, then go fuck yourself. Don't listen. Don't listen. I don't need to be your friend. I don't need to be your friend, your muse. I don't need to be liked. I don't need likes. I don't need comments. I don't need followers. Don't need them. Just listen. If you listen and you agree, then you know what? I embrace you with open arms. But if you are not I can't take criticism from somebody who doesn't understand what I'm doing.
Mm.
And that's a big thing I see with a lot of people, right? Including people, youngsters in this art form, right? And I mean, shouts to TME Studios, where we have Gorilla Grooves Radio every Tuesday. I mean, now we see a lot of younger dudes that, I mean, their perception of music is, to me, completely warped, right?
Yeah.
And because they're always discussing about their likes and their retweets and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is why you're making music? Then you should not be making music. If you can't go home and express yourself in music, then you're not making music. You're just being a fucking other clown running up on stage to make people laugh at you or to make people think you can relate to them, but you can't, because you know what? There's another sucker right behind you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You know what musicians do when they're tired? They go home and play.
Mm-hmm.
They go home and play, dude. When I have a bad day, I turn the tables on. And if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, I come back from that and I'm like, oh, I'm refreshed. Let's smoke.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying?
Nice. Listen, I want to give thanks to you, you know, for lending us this opportunity to speak with you. And just want, you know, before we part, just want to let the people know where they can find you, or you let the people know where they can find you.
People, you can find me on your phone. That thing that you have that's probably more expensive than mine. Mine has cracks down the middle, dry semen. It's disgusting. But yours is probably so cool that you deserve much more in life than what I deserve. You take that phone, you press the button in order to, you know, the pad that now you can get into. They call it the secret code, your passcode. You know what it is? Get into that phone, and then you do Google. This thing called Google. Right? I don't know if you ever heard of it, but there's a thing called Google. It's on your phone. How you spell that?
How you spell that?
Fuck them. But it's Google's on your phone, right? And you Googleize me. And that's all. When you do so, when you type in Rhinoceros Funk, you will see that I have a lot of albums out there. There's a lot of music and still more to come, because I'm not tired of telling you guys that this life sucks. Is being driven by corporate lackeys who hate you. All they want to do is suck on your money tit. Then you can find me on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. I don't care if I have to show up with stab wounds. I will be there. And I will then make you laugh on the radio while listening to mediocre boom bap music. Some of it is pretty good. So the name again is Rhinoceros Funk. And that is RHINOCEROS. Once again, for those who can't say it or spell it, there is no U in Rhinoceros. RHINOCEROS. And just in case, I wore a t-shirt in order for you guys to remember it. FUNK. Bringing the funk every goddamn day on Gorilla Grooves Radio. You can find us on Mixler. You can find us on my radio stream, and especially on Rap FM, WRAP.FM, with my man Fred Ones every goddamn Tuesday. We're on Mixcloud. Listen to that shit in the past, in the present, or the future, or go find the ghost of your dead grandbaby. I don't know. You could do that nowadays and have them listen as well. Don't ever ask me to do it. I go crazy when you give me.
Did y'all catch that?
That's Casey Kasem. That's the boom bap Casey Kasem.
That's Wolfman Jack right there.
It is. It definitely is. I mean, one of my favorite shows was WKRP in Cincinnati.
Hey.
I mean, that shit to me was, dude, I used to love watching it. And then by the time I got, yeah, man. And by the time I got to college, I was like, yo, this is the same. They had the same board that they used on the show. I'm like, holy cow! We had a very old board, but that to me was that fascinating thing of being able to not stutter, being able to convey a thought, being able to grasp a person's attention with the finest instrument that the human being has ever possessed: their fucking voice.
Most definitely.
And I keep smoking to get lung cancer, so I can kill that. This is the only thing that's gonna kill the voice. You can't kill it.
Makes you sound raspy and gives you a jazzy kind of feel.
Yeah. like your grandma. You're drinking her coffee.
Right, Grandma Hester.
Yeah. blowing smokes out of her throat hole. Oh, it's fucking gross. That's gross. Yo, man, thank you very much, brother.
Nah, thank you, brother. I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, man.
And
Always.
listen, we right on time. You know, like I said, we was going back and forth trying to get this, get this to happen. But we right here, right on time.
Of course, man. Of course. Remember, Googleize them. Rhinoceros Funk, Gorilla Grooves Radio every Tuesday. Peasant Podium Music. A lot of music.